In the name of Allah. Hi everyone. Tonight I have the opportunity to talk to Dr. Olsi Jazexhi, a history professor from the International Islamic University of Malaysia. He is also a very well-known political commentator and analyst and also a journalist. Dr. Jazexhi, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Okay, as you, Doctor, are well aware, unfortunately, we all have been shocked by the recent incidents in Syria and the overthrow of the Assad regime. So, as you're a history professor, for the first question, would you please elaborate on the um, geopolitical and historical importance of Syria for both Iran and the Zionist regime, because you have studied history very well and we are ready to hear your analysis.
Well, Syria has been one of the most important Arab states in the history of resistance against the Judeo-American imperialism of the Middle East. And when the Zionists will declare the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, Syria will be one of the first Arab countries which is going to join the war against Zionism. And Syria has participated in all major Arab-Israeli wars. We have four Arab-Israeli wars: the war of 1948, 56, 67, and 73. Uh, until the year 1979, we have the Arab governments and their ideology of Baathism or Arab nationalism, which is going to fight and to promise to the Arabs that they were going to liberate the Middle East, the Arab world, and in particular Palestine from the Judeo-American
Thank you
colonialism.
very much,
Egypt,
Doctor. That was very informative part of history. But what about now? What's the geopolitical importance of Syria for Israel and for Iran right now?
yeah, so since the war of 1973, when Syria fought the last war, participated in the last major Arab-Israeli war, while the Egyptians in 1979, they will betray the war for the liberation of Palestine with the Camp David Accord and with the Israeli-Egypt peace treaty. What is going to happen is that with the withdrawal of Egypt from the war, Syria will remain the only country which will not agree to sign peace with Israel. And what we're going to witness is that in 1979, we're going to have the Islamic Revolution of Iran. So while Egypt will collapse and will abandon the war for the liberation of Palestine, we will have the coming of Iran. And with the coming of Iran and Imam Khomeini will build his alliance with Syria. Syria will become a major ally of Iran, first in its war, the war Iran-Iraq from 1980 to 1988, where Syria is going to support Iran. And since 1982, when Imam Khomeini will establish the Hezbollah will be furnished and supported by Syria. So Syria was the main basis of the axis of resistance. So the war that happened against Israel in the past weeks and past year, this war, the resistance against Israel was projected from Imam Khomeini since the 1979 revolution. And Syria, since the Islamic Revolution of 1979, when Egypt decided to abandon Palestine, while before 1979, the major power which was fighting for the liberation of Palestine was Egypt, after 1979, Egypt will be replaced by Iran. And for this reason, Iran will find on Syria the most important Arab state, which is going to fully embrace the resistance for the liberation of Palestine. And Iran, through Syria, will create Hezbollah, the party of God, in southern Lebanon. After Israel will invade Lebanon and Ariel Sharon will lay siege to Beirut in 1982 and will expel the PLO and Yasser Arafat from Beirut.
Yeah, please, sorry to interrupt you, but because we are running out of time, as you know, the Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic of Iran gave a very important speech on Wednesday. I know that you listened to it. And he believed that the youth of the Syria will take back their country again. And I want to know your opinion. You know, how the Supreme Leader of Islamic Republic of Iran is so sure about this domestic power of the Syrian nation. And he believed that the Syrian people will do, and they need a recalculation about their decisions, and they will rejoin to the resistant axis once again. How do you think about it?
Well, from 27 November to 7th of December 2024, Syria witnessed a major shock. There was a regime change.
Yes.
The government of Bashar al-Assad collapsed. And this was a major blow for the axis of resistance. Now, the Zionists and their Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, they celebrated the fall of the government of Assad, and the Zionists, they believed that they won against axis of resistance. The speech of Imam Khamenei was a response to Netanyahu and to the Zionist alliance. Imam Khamenei, he told to the Syrian youth, to the Arab world, to the Islamic community, that the collapse of the government of Bashar al-Assad is not the end of history. Muslims, in their history of war against Zionism, they have seen their setbacks. The fall of Assad was a setback for the axis of resistance. But Imam Khamenei reminded the Zionists that the collapse of the government of Bashar al-Assad is not the end of history. The Syrian youth, the people of Syria, will continue their war for liberation of Palestine. And as we know, as of this moment that we are talking together, while the Zionists, with the help of a NATO member country, Turkey, they stabbed in the back the resistance and they destroyed the Syrian government, this is not the end of history. There is a resistance going on in all the corners of Syria. You have a Syrian Arab army, which is organizing itself. You have the Alevi community, you have the Sunnis, you have the Shias, you have the Christians, you have everyone who is organizing themselves. While the Zionists, they thought that by toppling the government of Bashar al-Assad, they won the war. This is not true. And what Imam Khamenei said is a warning to the Zionist alliance that the game goes on. Yes, it was a setback, but this is not the end.
Yes, exactly. As you said, Imam Khamenei predicted that the axis of resistance will overtake and will take over all the region again, and it's not the end of history, as you said. And you know, the Americans will be expelled from the region at the end. We know that Imam Khamenei is not only a very influential and imam and the leader of the Shia Islam world, Islamic world, and also he is a very intelligent and a skillful strategist, and we always believe in his predictions because always his predictions have been realized. But the process is important. How can you explain about the process of this spread of resistance all over the region again, and how is the process of expelling the Americans from the region in the future?
Look, with the Israel-Egyptian peace treaty of 1979 and with the expulsion of the PLO from Lebanon in 1982 and with the expulsion of the PLO from Jordan in 1970, the Zionists, they thought that they defeated Islam. But what happened was that the leadership of Imam Khomeini, the establishment of Hezbollah, and later under the leadership of Imam Khamenei, the support for the resistance, turned history back for the Zionists.
Yes.
What happened during the past year with the successful attack of Hamas on 7th of October against the Zionist state and the joining of Hezbollah and the axis of resistance in war against Israel, Israel faced one of the most dangerous existential threat in its history. Look, the Jewish state is a very small state. Israel is probably smaller than Tehran.
Yes.
And this state, which is a military base of the Anglo-American Zionism, is not supposed to fight long wars. Israel does not have the strategic depth which regional superpowers like Iran have.
Exactly.
And during the 1 year and 1 month or 2 months war that was waged by Hamas and Hezbollah, the Israeli state got destroyed. 500,000 or 500,000 Zionist Jews were forced to leave Israel and to go back to Europe. Yes, it is true, Israel, in collaboration with its allies, the United States, Great Britain, France, and Germany, they assassinated many of the leaders of the resistance. Leaders like Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, Yahya Sinwar, Ismail Haniyeh. We believe that even President Ibrahim Raisi, even though you might have another opinion about that, but we believe that all these people, they were martyred for the case of Palestine.
Yeah.
Yes, the Zionists, with their superior technology, with the weapons and the satellite covering by the Americans and the British, they were able to assassinate many leaders of the resistance. And the first martyr of Palestine of this war was General Qasem Soleimani, who was the mastermind of all this wonderful alliance that Iran built. Look, Iran is not a nuclear superpower. Iran is not an economic superpower. Iran is a regional power. But what happened is that since the year 2006, when this axis of resistance formed itself from Yemen to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon to Gaza to West Bank and to Iran, what Israel had to face, like Benjamin Netanyahu says, that they had to fight a war on 7 fronts. And if it was not for the American superpower to support Israel economically, militarily, the Zionist state would have collapsed. And what happened on 27th of November, it was a stalemate. Israel didn't win against Hezbollah. Yes, Israel flattened Gaza. Yes, Israel assassinated many leaders of the resistance. But never mind. I mean, the leaders of the resistance, they are martyrs. I mean, they believe in Allah and they believe in Akhirah. Muslims, they are not afraid from death. I mean,
exactly.
And especially in your Shia Islam, the concept of martyrdom, like Imam Hussein, is something that inspires and motivates the people of the resistance. So look, on 27th of November, Israel was tired, and Israel suddenly begged Hezbollah and Lebanon for a ceasefire. But what happened is that at the very same day that Israel was blooded in his face, the Americans used Plan B. And the Plan B was the ousting of the government of Bashar al-Assad. But it doesn't matter because, Bashar al-Assad is not Qasem Soleimani. Yes, Bashar al-Assad and his government, they were very important or allies of Iran, but this is not the end of history. There are so many militias in Iraq, in Lebanon, even inside Jordan, in Yemen, who are all fighting for the liberation of Palestine and are part of the axis of resistance, and the war goes on.
Exactly, Doctor. I totally agree with you. And as you repeatedly stated, Bashar al-Assad was an important ally of Iran, but this is not the end of history. And this is exactly what Imam Khamenei said also. He said that the overthrow of Assad government is not the end, and Iran is still strong and will become stronger and more powerful in the future. How do you interpret that? And what are still the strong points of Iran? And you know that Iran will definitely continue supporting the axis of resistance and Hezbollah and Hamas. And we will also definitely continue fighting against the child killer machine of the Zionist regime, and we will continue fighting for the innocent children and civilians of Palestine. So how do you interpret that Iran is still strong even after Assad?
Look, the war that happened recently in Gaza is not the first war which Iran has faced in its history. We have to remind our viewers that during the Iran-Iraq war, Iraq took from Iran many cities and even entered inside Iran, and was even bombing Tehran. And Iran was not defeated. And Iran won against the Wahhabi Zionist alliance of Saddam Hussein. But look, if we compare Iran of the 1980s to Iran today, Iran is in a much superior position.
Exactly.
Because what happened is that in 1980s, the American Wahhabi Zionist alliance, they unleashed Saddam Hussein and Iraq against Iran. And in that time, Iran was facing an existential question because its cities were overrun by the armies of Saddam Hussein and even by the traitors of the Mujahideen al-Halq, which are nowadays shamefully hosted by my country, Albania.
Yes.
And they were all defeated. And today, where is the war? Today, the war is not in Iran, but is in Tel Aviv. The war is around the borders of Israel.
Yes.
So what Iran has done what Zbigniew Brzezinski was asking the American administration to do against Russia, to burn the borders of Russia. And in this moment, Iran has burned the borders of Israel. Israeli state majority of Israelis until 27 November, for more than a year, they were living in shelters. They were living in bunkers. But people in Tehran, they enjoy their life to this moment. And moreover, yes, the collapse of the Syrian government, it was a setback, but this is how war is. Sometimes you take a city, sometimes you lose it. Sometimes you take a province, sometimes you fight back. But the important thing is that Iran has a strategic depth. And for people who understand geopolitics, or for example, those who have read the Al-Muqaddimah of Ibn Khaldun, and he says an empire, in order to preserve its power, should have the wars as far from its borders as possible. And if we see the geopolitical situation nowadays, Israel is in a deep danger. Yes, the Zionists, with the support of Turkey, Ukraine, and the Americans, they toppled the government of Bashar al-Assad. This has created destabilization. There is an ongoing civil war in this moment in Syria. But like Mao Zedong used to say, that when there is chaos under the sky, this is wonderful. And Iranians have shown to the world in the last 2 decades, since when the Americans destroyed Iraq, and in 2003, when they toppled Saddam Hussein, when all the world and the Zionists, they were very happy because they thought suddenly we were defeating Iran. We destroyed Iraq. We have American bases surrounding Iran from Afghanistan to Iraq. What happened is that Iranians, they were very smart to use the chaos in order to build the resistance. Iraq, which during the era of Saddam Hussein was a bastion of Arab stupid racism against Iranians, and which was serving as a buffer state for the Zionists against Iran, today is an Iranian ally. And the Shias, who before they were oppressed, today they are fighters for the cause of Palestine. So for the Zionists who are happy and they say, oh, we toppled Bashar al-Assad and we destroyed the axis of resistance, I would tell to them, I'm sorry, this is too early for you to come into conclusion. And I would like just to remind them about what the Americans did when they invaded Afghanistan and when they toppled Saddam Hussein. They thought, now we are ruling the Islamic world, we have surrounded Iran, but no, chaos is good. And chaos is and will be used by the Iranians, the RGC, by the Revolutionary Guard, because Iranians, they know how to play with the chaos. The Zionists, they think that by toppling leaders, like they toppled Saddam Hussein, the things will get better for them. But I mind your viewers that the toppling of Bashar al-Assad is a marvelous opportunity for Iran, because as many analysts know, Bashar al-Assad was not always very supportive of the Iranians. Very often, because he was trying to play with Emiratis and yes, Saudis, Russians and others. So, he was very often refusing the request of the axis of resistance, and he was also afraid from the Israelis. But now that there is a power vacuum, this is wonderful, because now Syria is open 100% for the Iranians. Yes. Yes, in this very moment, there is a chaos, there is a civil war, there will be, Iranians probably will need some months to figure out who is fighting whom. Chaos is good. Iranians, they have shown how they use the chaos in Yemen, when the Americans destroyed Yemen. They used chaos in Iraq, when Americans destroyed Iraq. Iranians, they are very smart chess players.
Thank you very much. It was perfect, Doctor. Exactly true. And I think the the Syrian people will sooner or later understand that no other country in this jungle of world will support and protect them, not better than Iran. And I think that was a very informative discussion. Thank you very much, Doctor. It was a great analysis of you, and I hope to talk to you about other issues in the future. And once again, I appreciate you for dedicating your time to us tonight. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Thank you for having me. Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.